Have you ever wondered where you would be without motorbikes? I'd certainly be a lot richer than I am right now. Today, I want to go back on the history of all the bikes I've had, why I've had them, for what reason, whatever. So grab yourself a nice massive cup of tea or a beer or whatever you want. Sit back, relax and get bored by the history of Tom's TC motorcycles. So I'm going to take you back to 1982, and here is a picture of me about 18 months old, precariously perched upon a Suzuki GS750, 1980-1979 model. This is my dad's bike, and as you can see, we didn't give a damn about health and safety back then. This bike is ingrained in my heart and in my soul. I remember this bike vividly, and it's the reason why I love motorbikes today. And if I see a GS750, I'm drawn to it like a fly around the proverbial. This bike unfortunately got broken down and was never put back together, but if my dad had it now, it would be worth a small fortune, as I think we would all appreciate a bike like this. Many years pass by. I'm 16-year-old now, and the year is around 97, 96, and my dad has gone out and bought himself a Yamaha FZR 1000X up, a 92 model, I believe, or maybe even 1990 model. This bike is where it all began again. This is what reignited my need for motorcycles. I believe this is the bike that made me want bikes. So now my want for a motorbike has grown considerably, and I told my dad I want a motorbike. He said, "Don't worry, son, I'll sort you right out." So he comes back from work one day and he pulls this bike out of his van. And I admit, I didn't actually give him specifics, but he did buy the bike for me. I didn't have to go out and buy it. A Bajaj RX 100. That's right, this old looking thing. Unfortunately, I don't have any pictures of my actual bike, but this is like what it was. A bicycle with an engine. This thing is basically the Indian version of the Yamaha. This bike was rock solid and I couldn't really mock it. I threw it down the road, I crashed it all over the place, it seized up, it got unseized, I didn't have to look after it, it just went on and on and on. So after about a year of having this bike, I finally decided to move on, and I went out and I got a Honda Bros 400. The Honda Bros 400, the reason I got it after I did my test was because of the fact that you could only ride a bike with 33 brake horsepower at the time if you were under the age of 21. So we're sort of looking at around the year 2000 for that. This bike was rock solid. Again, didn't really bother looking after it, didn't service it, maybe washed it a few times. I modified it. I put a CBR 900 rear shock on the back of it, which rose the rear end up a little bit and made the nose point down. It handled incredibly well. Didn't stop me from crashing it though. It had a stupid little fairing on the front, which looked rubbish now when I look back at it. But I love this bike. I did a few track days on it and it was epic. I could get my knee down. I could hoon around with my mates. What more could a 20-year-old bloke want? So anyway, after the 2 years of owning this bike, I finally decided to sell it on. So eventually I sold the Bros 400 after a couple of years, and now I could have any bike that I wanted. That's all I had to do was just do 2 years on a 33 brake horsepower bike, and I was away. My next bike was the Yamaha TRX 850. This bike was a parallel twin. The TRX 850 had a off-crank design, so 270 crank, so it sounded like a V-twin. It sounded incredible and it handled really, really well. This bike gave me so much opportunities. It was quick enough for the road. Like I said, it sounded incredible. Unfortunately, I did crash it quite badly at Snetterton one year on a track day. This meant that I decided to put it away in the garage and forget about it. I'd actually got a car and I was commuting backwards and forwards to work in that. My now wife at the time was my girlfriend, and she said to me, what you should do is get that bike back on the road, and that's exactly what I did. I got the TRX 850 back on the road and it was brilliant. I loved it again. You often find yourself a renewed love for these things, and doing that is exactly what I needed. Unfortunately, I had to sell the TRX 850. Me and my now wife were actually buying a flat and it didn't have a garage, so I had to sell it on. And that was that for the TRX 850. But that bike is one of the few bikes that I really regret selling. Fast forward a few years and we're still in the flat, but we've actually managed to get an on-block garage just up the road. And my wife says to me, why don't you get another bike? And I was like, yeah, great, what a brilliant idea. So I went out and I brought a Suzuki GSX 1400 with 7,000 miles on the clock for about £3,700. This was back in 2007. I kept this bike for 11 years, and you know what? It's one of the most versatile bikes. It's fast, it's torquey, it's comfortable-ish, and it will tour very well. But when I say comfortable-ish, the issue that I had with it was the fact that the seat height, it just wasn't far enough away from the pegs. And as I got older, my knees got less supple and I had to sell it. I couldn't sit in a saddle for any longer than an hour. I tried a few things. I got the saddle made a little bit higher. I tried lowering the pegs, but that didn't work. It just meant that the thing would bottom out even quicker than it already does. But this bike was awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed it. When I bought it, it had the stupid flame saddle. And some flat bars. It looked good. There's loads of videos on my channel about it. I managed to keep it for 11 years before I moved on and actually made a small profit as well. After 11 years of owning the Suzuki GSX 1400, I decided to sell it on. But before I sold it, I decided to take a punt on a bike that I've wanted for absolutely years, the Yamaha MT-01. The MT-01 has been ingrained in my mind for as long as I can remember. I remember seeing the concept bike in Motorcycle News years ago. And Yamaha actually decided to build that bike, and it was released in 2005, and this is what you got. A V-twin, 1700cc, basic monster. It looks like a monster, it sounds like a monster. But it's actually a really tame bike. Not massively fast, but if you look at my other videos, and I'll put some links below, you'll see why I actually love this bike. I've had it for over 2 years now, and I don't think I'm going to sell it anytime soon. This is my current, well, was my current day-to-day bike. At the moment, it's been quite happy sitting in the garage, staying nice and fresh for the spring. Which moves me on to my Honda CRF 250 Rally. And this bike I acquired back in October, and this has been my winter runner and occasional mucking about on the green lanes or crashing. Check the videos below or on my other videos. But basically it's to give me cheap running, get me backwards and forwards to work nice and quickly, and something I can drop and crash and not be too concerned about. But do you know what? I absolutely love this bike. It's so versatile. It's so easy to ride. It's so incredibly light. It does everything I want it to do. Yeah, it might be a bit saggy at the back end, even with the slightly modified shocks, but it's perfect for my needs. Thank you so much for watching. That's the end of the video today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope I didn't bore you to death too much with my history of motorcycling. If this is your first time watching Tom's TC, please give us a subscribe, give me a thumbs up. Comment below, tell me a bit about your own history. If you're interested in my other videos, don't forget to check out the ones about the MT-01 and the CRF 250. There's loads of other videos as well. I hope you have a great day. I look forward to seeing your comments. Please give that a thumbs up, give me a subscribe, and I'll see you next time on Tom's TC. Cheers.